Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from Alex Merced Coder, and this is the third video in this build. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build out the authentication. Okay, I'm going to create a special controller for all my auth routes. Okay, and the way this particular template works is that I have every single route being driven to this home router. Okay, so basically any URL, because every URL starts with a slash, is going to be driven to this home router. But I don't want to write my auth routes there. I could, I just don't want to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new file, an auth router, auth.js. I'm just gonna go into my home router and literally just copy this. Okay, so there's my auth router. That code works. Okay, module that exports router. Okay, and anything else I want to do here? This all looks good to me. So then I'm gonna import this router here. So I want to say const auth router equals require, and that's going to be in the same folder. So /auth router. Cool. And then I'm going to register it as middleware in this router. So basically, all routes will go to the home router, and then the home router can then just route it to other routers. So I'm going to say, hey, router.use, I'm registering middleware with the router, and I'm going to say, hey, if this is a route that begins with /auth, then send it to the auth router. Cool. Okay, so that's all fine and good. Okay, and that's that. So that should, now I can now start writing my routes in here. Now in this case, I do want to use my user model here because I'm going to be needing that for doing my auth routes. So I'm going to say const user equals require /models /user. I'm also going to need bcrypt because we're going to be encrypting passwords when people create users. Bcrypt equals require I don't actually know that. Bcrypt there we go, bcrypt.js. And I think that's all I need for here. I don't need the dreams because we're not handling like making dreams or making hopes yet. Right now we're just going to handle like, can a user log in, sign up, that kind of thing. So generally this is going to need a bundle of routes. The first two routes I want are sign up. Okay. Okay, so every route here starts with /auth. Why? Because this modelware says that any route that's going to go to the auth router has to start with /auth. So I don't need to keep repeating /auth. Okay, that's implied. So I can do /signup. Okay. So again, these are going to be like /auth /signup. That's essentially the route. And I'm going to basically need a get route, one that takes me to a login page, which I will put in an auth folder in my views folder. So I'm using EJS, okay, which is one template engine of many, handlebars, pug, etc. And basically the way that the res.render function works in Express is that it points to a template in this views folder. By default, it always looks in this views folder. So when I say auth/log signup, it's looking for a folder called, and here it's going to look for a folder called auth, so a new file called auth. No, that's a file. I want a folder. Let me delete that. So let's make a new folder called auth, and in that folder we're going to have a new file signup.ejs. Cool, and we'll come back to that, but that's there. Okay, so back to my routes. So auth signup. So essentially what this route does is just says, hey, when you go to /auth/signup in the browser, it's just going to render this page. Wonderful. Okay, and then generally there's going to be a form on that page for me to sign up, and then I'm going to submit that form, which is going to be a post request. So I'm also going to want a post route to create that user. So this would be a post this /auth /sign up. This is going to be a get to /auth /sign up. Wonderful. Okay. And then generally when that happens, when you submit the form, I can just build out the logic now because I know what the logic is. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to want to encrypt the password. Okay, and on that note, I'm going to want this to be an async function because I like using async await because it's a lot cleaner. Encrypt password. So again, we're going to have the username and password in the request body because they filled out the form. And whenever you fill out the form, okay, if I go back to server.js, it's going to be this middleware that's going to parse the form. Okay, so we're going to want to make sure that we handle that body and do stuff with it. So what I want to do is change the rec.body.password into an encrypted password. So actually, first thing I want to do is generate a salt. So const salt equals await decrypt dot gensalt, and we'll just say 10. Just means like how, it's like imagine putting salt in soup. It just kind of spoils the soup, so you're spoiling the password. So the bigger the salt, the more spoiled the password is, but also means the more processing power it takes to decrypt it, which can slow down. So 10 is kind of like the happy balance, kind of like the standard. Okay. It's not so light that it's accessible. It's heavy enough to protect it, but not heavy enough that it's going to really damage performance. Rec.body.password await decrypt dot hash, that hashes the password. Okay, and I'm going to hash rec.body.password, so whatever the current value is, whatever you typed in the form, and then we're going to use the salt that we just generated on the previous line. Okay, and honestly I should probably wrap this in a try catch block. That would be proper. So I'm going to create my try catch block. Okay. And generally, if we get an error, we're going to want to res.status 400, so that way it looks like an error. .json, and I want to send back the error as a JSON in case we have any errors. And then this I want inside the try catch, the try block. Cut. And the reason for that is just that way if there's any errors in our code, it gets handled. So that if any line in this code triggers an error, it's going to cause this response, and then I can kind of debug it from there. Otherwise, it would just be like, I don't know, and that's not really helpful. So I have prettier set up, so I'm gonna hit a save just for it to kind of like format everything. Okay, so that encrypted the password. Now that we've encrypted the password, we'll create the user. Okay, and so that'd be const. No, I mean I don't even need to do that. Just do await create user dot create. We pass in the rec.body that creates the user, and if that's successful, then we're gonna redirect them to the login page and say, hey, go log in now. So res.redirect, and we haven't made this route yet, but it's gonna end up being /auth /login. Okay, so it'll push them to that page once it's all set. Okay, and those are my two routes. So really all I need to do is now create this login page. Because right now I have this route that when you go there, will take them to the login page. I mean, sign up page. And then it has a response when it signs up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scope out my login route just so that way, like, it doesn't just break. So we're going to do this as login. And this will be auth /login. Okie dokie. Auth /login. And essentially, again, this is going to be login. And for now, it's just going to res.send the login. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay. Cool. So I have these two routes. I just need the EJS file. I'm not going to worry about styling yet. We maybe do some styling videos at the very, very end of this video series. Right now we're just building the thing. I always like to build at the end. So in this case, I'm going to want to copy my home.ejs template because it has all the partials already kind of set up. But now keep in mind, home.ejs is here, so all those partials are in a nested folder. So it goes like home / partials / whatever. So in that case, when I copy this though, it's where it is relative to these partials is different. So I have to change this to like .. on all of these because it has to go up a folder then down a folder. So I have to make sure that these URLs reflect that for that to work. Okay. Cool. Or file paths, not URLs. Okay, so that's set. Now I just create the form. Okay. So I'll just say h1 form or sign up. Then I'm going to use a form tag. And again, the form, whenever we submit the form, it's going to make a request to /auth /signup because this is a sign up form. And the type of method it will make is a post request. Cool. Okay, that's all set. So then the next thing it'll do is we need to have an input of type equals text. This will be for the username. Now this name property has to match the name on the schema because that's going to determine what the name is inside the request body, and that request body object has to match our schema. So name, username, and placeholder. We'll say, hey, this is going to be type username. And I think that does the job. Okay, so there's one. And then I'm just going to copy this 2 more because I need a 1 for the password and then a submit button. So for this one is going to use a password type input because we want to hide the password. And it's called password. And here we'll say type password as a placeholder. This will be a submit button because you are submitting. And it doesn't need a name, doesn't really need any of this. It needs a value because that's what's going to say on the button, and we'll just say sign up, and then that should do it. Okay, so there's our sign up form. So let's test this out. npm run dev, and then it should push me to the login page once I do that. So the route was /auth /sign up. So there's the form. I'll try a different username, Alex Merced 2. Cheese, doesn't matter what the password is. And it worked. So you pushed us to the login page, which means that was successful. If any error had occurred, I wouldn't have gotten that. So I know my sign up is working. Wonderful. Okay. So now we move on to logging in. Okay, so let me go back to my routes, back in my auth router. And login page should basically should generate a page where you have a login form. So res.render, and it should render auth /login. Okay, and we'll come back and build that in a moment. But then when you fill out the form, router.post /login, what it should do is, again, an async function, because I'm going to be doing async stuff here. This is probably going to be one of the more complicated routes we'll write. First thing I need to do when you log in is I need to make sure your user exists. So first stop. Does the user exist? Cool. Okie dokie. And cool. First stop, does the user exist? So we're going to say const user equals await user dot find one, and we just want to, or actually just find by ID. Okay, and then we just pass in Actually, no, we're not going to be able to find by ID because we don't have an ID. We have the username and password you put in the form. So we're going to say, hey, find me the username, or the user with the username of rec.body.username. Okay, so give me that user that you submitted, and let's see if it exists. Now, if it exists, that user will be stored in this variable. If it doesn't, I'm going to get back undefined, which is falsy. So I'll do this. And again, I should probably wrap this all in try catch block. Again, not a bad habit. Bad habits, Alex. You got to make sure you set up those try catch blocks. Error. And then I'm just going to again copy this. Because I just woke up for the first of these videos, so I'm still like half asleep. Okay. And then I want all this stuff to be inside the try block. Okay, and again, all this does is just in case, it just basically says, hey, if an error happens, run this catch block. Otherwise, it really doesn't do anything. I'll hit save just to clean up the formatting. There we go. Because I got the auto formatter going. Okay. So if the user exists, so if this variable actually has a value, which means the user would exist, then stuff will happen. Else, what I'm going to do is send back an error. So I'm going to just copy this. Except instead of sending back an error, I'm going to send back a message. Error, user does not exist. Okay, cool. Now, if the user does exist, then we have to check if the password is correct. So I have to do like const user, const result, meaning result of checking the password, equals await decrypt dot compare, and then let's see here. Yeah, yay for VS Code for giving me these like nice useful tool hints. So first we're passing in the password, then we're passing in the hash string. So first the password from the form, so that'd be rec.password, rec.body.password. And then we pass in the hashed version of the string, which is on the user. So that'd be user.password. And we're going to say, hey, compare those two things. And that's going to return a truthy or falsy value here, depending on whether that's successful or not. So if that is not successful, if results, so that's how we'll check. Okay, so that's what happens if the passwords match. Else, I'll send an error again. Okay, password does not match. But if it does, then the user is logged in. So then we're going to take advantage that we do have session configured in this template. And I'm going to say rec.session.user equals, okay, rec.session.user equals an object where we have the username, which will just be the user.username, and we'll have the user ID, which will be the user._ID, because that's how it is in MONGO. And then that way we have this object to refer to, that way we don't have to constantly be querying for the user for different purposes. Okay. So that's cool. So rec.session.user, I'll have those two things to just make life a little easier when I need those two things. Cool. If result. And let's just save for formatting purposes. Save. Yep, that's all formatted now. Cool. Okay, so there is my login setup. Now I just have to set up the login page. So, and I need to make sure we do something after we create this rec.session.user ID. Let's redirect you. Res.redirect to, we'll say, we'll create like a dashboard.EJS. Okay, and that'll kind of be where you can kind of see your things. Okay, so we'll say call it dashboard. So right now what I will do is I gotta create something for that dashboard, and to have a dash to take you to slash dashboard, actually slash dashboard, I need to create a route for that. So let me go to my home.ejs because that's probably where that's gonna have to exist. Not my home router. Home.js, here we go. And let's create another route here. Router.get. This will be slash dashboard. Rec res. And then this will just res.render a dashboard.ejs. So, and then we'll come back to that. Okay. So let's make these files. First, I'll just make that dashboard.ejs real quick. Copy. So I'll just copy the home.ejs, paste in views, rename that to dashboard. And then I'm just put here h1 dashboard. Okay, we'll come back to that. And then here in Auth, I will copy the sign up, paste, make this rename login. Okay, and basically it's just change where it needs to become sign up. So I want to change sign up here and here. So let me change that to login because that needs to be posting to auth/login. Otherwise the form is exactly the same. And then let's just change this to login. Okay, so that should work. Okay, so now if I go back to the login, refresh the login page. Now if I try to type in the original username I created when we seeded, Alex Merced, cheese, does it take me to the dashboard? And it does. Okay, so that's working. Okay, cool. So we've built Auth. Okay, so we can log into our app now. And have multiple users that can sign up and do cool things. So I guess the next step would be to start building our functionality. Okay, but we'll do that in the next video. So I'll see you there. I will stop this and see you then.